Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Freedom Matters Live, episode number 12. It's been a crazy week, hasn't it? We've got Biden out there getting his booster shot. We got NBA players having to defend their decision not to get the COVID shot. Things are happening, right? We got a totalitarian government encroaching on our freedoms everywhere we turn, not to mention Australia. Have you guys seen what's going on over there? People are being arrested. They're being taken down in the streets just for walking too far from their homes. It's getting bad. So I say all that to say, we are gearing up for our fall events here in Houston. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about locally. And we have a rally. Let me pull it up here. We have our Freedom Defenders Rally coming up October 24th, 1 p.m., Sugarland City Hall. 2 p.m., we're going to have speakers. We'll have live music first. So save the date, guys. We're in the process of gathering our speakers right now. There's obviously a lot of logistical things that have to go into it. We're, booking a speaker system. We're reserving the park. It's a lot of work. So we really appreciate it when people say, yes, I'm going to be there. I will come and make all of this work that you put into this rally worth it. So make plans October 24th. And also, I want to bring on Miss Charisse. She is a member of the Freedom Matters Action Group, and she's planning an event that's coming up even sooner. So I wanted to have her on to talk about it. Hey, Charisse.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on with me.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pull up your poster here, but tell us a little bit about this event that's coming up.
Okay, so we have a huge event. It's October 4th. It's better than dinner and a movie. It's a dinner presentation discussing voter fraud and turnout irregularities in general in the 2020 election in Fort Bend County, including some info on Houston. The
Great.
speakers who we've hooked are a former Captain Seth Keshel. He's an intelligence officer and a stats whiz, and his work will speak for itself when you see his presentation. He's excellent.
I've watched some of his videos. He's great.
Yes, he is. And the Honorable Weston Martinez, he worked together with Project Veritas in Bexar County, which is San Antonio, and they uncovered a bunch of fraud, which led to arrests. So he's a great, these are two experts in this field. So we can't wait to have them. Looking forward to the event. So it costs $35. And that includes appetizer, dinner, and beverages.
It's a pretty good deal. And I know that you personally have been putting a lot of your money into this event. You're going out on a limb here, right? Because you've got to rent the space, you've got to put money into it, and you really need people to just buy that $35 ticket and attend, right? So we can have the support. We can make sure we can do these types of events in the future. And I love that you are taking on voter fraud, because this is such a problem. I mean, if you guys caught our episode a couple of weeks ago where we talked about voter fraud going on in Fort Bend County, it's apparently even more evident in Fort Bend than it is in Harris. And we know it's happening in Houston and Harris County. So, it's a noble cause to take on. I love you for it.
Thanks. It's, we all have to do our part here and there, but the venue is at Anthony's Market Grill. They have awesome food. It's in Simonton, so it's a little bit of a hike, but it's well worth it. You can buy tickets on the website. It's tinyurl.com/protectthevotehouston.
Yes, and we have that pulled up right here at the bottom. I'm actually going to paste that into the comments as well in just a minute when I can get that going. Actually, Charisse, why don't you send me that link just in our Telegram group, and then I'll just copy and paste it. Awesome. So, but yeah, let me go ahead and remove this banner here. So people come out Monday, October 4th, sign up, get there, sign in at 5:30, and then it runs from 6 to 8 p.m. And we're going to have Seth Keshel speak, as well as the other guy. What was his name?
Weston Martinez. He's actually running for land commissioner. He would be awesome.
Okay.
in that role as well. So
great. Well, thank you for putting this together, and we will spread the word.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, thanks, Reese. Bye. Okay, so now that we have gotten that out of the way, remember we've got those 2 events coming up. Put them on your calendar. I want to get to the meat of today's show. So I am so excited to be talking today with a gentleman from Georgia and his daughter. They are, as everyone in our area knows, we've been fighting these mask mandates in Fort Bend County schools. Fort Bend ISD was a really bad one. They were, in spite of the governor's executive order that, there should be no mask mandates, they were still trying to push masks on our kids when school first started for this semester. And we brought on a couple of parents who we interviewed. We even put together a parents group where we were preparing to sue Fort Bend ISD and say, you cannot force these masks on our kids. Fortunately, Fort Bend backed down very quickly. I think that was in response to Behar County. They had, I think it was Behar. It was one of those out toward Austin, an ISD who did sue. They sued the ISD and won. So maybe it was Travis County. So anyway, we had them back down, and it was wonderful. And our kids are able to choose whether or not they're going to wear a mask in school. Their parents have autonomy over the decisions that are made for their child, not the school system, not the public entities that be. So we feel like we won for the meantime, but we're very much expecting it to come back in the future. So I wanted to have this gentleman on to talk about his experience and the way he's fighting the system in Georgia, because they've got some bad stuff going on over there. You think Georgia, oh, they're in the South, they're going to be, have some common sense, have some laid back policies. Oh no. When you hear his story, it's amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on now. Hey, Josh, this is Josh and Isabelle.
Morning.
How
you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for coming on this evening.
Absolutely. I want to clarify one thing. This is not my story.
It's my story.
It's her story. I'm a belligerent bystander.
I love it, Isabelle. I mean, you're the next generation in training. And when your dad told me the story of everything you've been dealing with for the past, 2 weeks, it probably feels like it's been a year of dealing with this, with everything you've had to go through each day at school. It's crazy. And I applaud you. And how old are you?
13.
13. I don't know any 13-year-olds with the fortitude of character that you have. I certainly didn't have it at that age, and I think you have a bright future. So I want to get into the story. So Josh, you're really good with the timeline. So tell us how this all began.
I'm at work, and I get a phone call from the assistant principal at Twin Rivers Middle School, and they inform me that they currently have Isabelle in an isolation room because she is either unable or unwilling to wear her mask according to Gwinnett County policy, which is covering both the nose and the mouth. Since everything has become mandatory at the schools, all 3 of my children, 13, 9, and 7, on a very regular basis would complain about headaches and nausea and dizziness and the inability or difficulty getting a full and complete breath, and just general breathing issues whenever they're forced to wear the mask over their nose for 8 hours a day. And
longer than any of us adults are doing, right? None of us wears a mask for 8 hours a day. I don't care who you are, but we're asking our kids to do that.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'm at work, so I've got to try and keep my volume down, but that does not go over well with me. I don't take kindly to ultimatums in general, rights violations, period. But now they're messing with my children.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with the administration, with the school every day since, today makes 2 weeks. All last week, and this began Thursday 2 weeks ago. And basically they told me that because she took her mask down below her nose and refused to put it back up when they wanted to because she was having issues breathing, that they removed her from class and placed her in I'm going to say 15 by 15 room, 15 foot by 15 foot room. Isolation
Now,
room is exactly what they call it.
let
By
me
yourself.
just focus on this. She's sitting in the classroom. She's pulled it down below her nose. It's still over her mouth. It's sitting like this. And this teacher has a conniption fit and says, "Oh, no, ma'am, you have to wear it over the nose."
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. We all wear it below the nose. We know we're not supposed to, but you see that everywhere you go. Even the people who are enforcing these mask policies, who believe in them, they got them below their nose occasionally. We had a guy, I had Eric Braden on the show last week, and I pointed out in his arrest video, he was arrested in a mall for not wearing a mask. And in his arrest video, the police officer who's arresting him has his mask pulled down. You know, it's unbelievable. It's like, what's good for you is not necessarily good for me. I'm going to do what I want, but I'm going to make you stand up to the strictest standards of this mask policy. Yeah. So they isolate her. They put her in a room by herself.
Yes, and this is again Thursday 2 weeks ago. Today 2 weeks ago. But she doesn't stay by herself for very long. Now this room has an office that's attached to it that is through a doorway. This room has no windows. The office has windows. That is where there is an administrator sitting at her desk, not in the same room as my daughter. But she's not in there for very long because that is also the room where the school nurse sends the children who come to her and are deemed too ill to remain in class and are awaiting their parents to be picked, or awaiting for their parents to pick them up.
They put her in the quarantine sick room.
Yeah. So she's in this room, not wearing a mask, and being placed in close quarters with students who are being deemed too ill to remain in class.
Okay. Crazy.
I don't find out about that until after she gets home. I have a good 15-minute long conversation, and I use that term loosely when speaking to this administrator. And the last thing I tell her is that I would like to speak to my daughter, and it took them almost 40 minutes to have her call me back. Now, this whole time she is sitting at a table with a phone on it by herself. And it takes them nearly an hour I think it was something like 37 minutes when I went back and looked at my call log to have her call me back. I think they were trying to decide on whether or not they were going to let her call me back.
Mm-hmm. They were talking.
Yeah. Now I'm not one to take messing with my kids kindly. I absolutely got loud and belligerent with her. Okay. And in no uncertain terms informed her that they will remove her from this isolation room, or there will be consequences coming from my end. Mm-hmm. She remained in there for the rest of the day. This was Thursday. She gets home. She tells me what else is going on. That's when she informs me of the other students who are ill coming in. So I keep her out Friday. We took a mental health day and had a good day together, and discussed how we were going to proceed. Now,
why don't you tell us the conversations that you and Isabelle have had? I take it you were already talking to her before the school year started and said, hey, what was that conversation like? Are you kind of talking her through the past year and a half of the craziness that is COVID? And, how does that go?
Well, it goes basically, the mask mandates are rights violations, period. End of story. I've told all three of my children that if they are having difficulty breathing, to take the mask down. Nobody else is breathing for them, and nobody else can tell them when they can, catch their breath.
Take a breath.
And they keep it down as low as they need to, as long as they need to. And if they want to keep it down longer just because, go for it.
Yeah.
You will, they all three of them, and I'm telling all three of them this, you will have my full support. And any punishments that are doled out from the school system, punishments, air quotes there, will be null and void as far as I'm concerned.
That's great.
So
that's great parenting. Now talk about your other two, because they are in the same school district. Is that right?
Yes.
But they're not dealing with this.
No, they're in Woodward Mill Elementary School, and they, on a very regular basis, keep it down not only below their nose but below their mouth. And the extent to which the administration, deals with that is just to put your mask up.
Yeah.
They tell them to. To my knowledge, they have not used their isolation room.
Okay.
So I
it's
don't
really
know what
just
other.
according to how much of an authoritarian approach the school administrator is going to take. You
Right.
know, it's up to the school, basically. It sounds like.
How mad do they get when they're told no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How much do they demand that their orders be obeyed in every way? So you said and also when she's being put in this isolation room, which I think happened a few more days, I don't want to get too much ahead of you, but she's counted as absent, right? And she's getting zeros in her classes. Wow.
Yes.
Yep.
So she's being punished.
Yeah, she's being punished. Absolutely. Being punished for not being able to breathe. Counted as absent, missing assignments showing up on the progress report as specifically absent and a 0.
And not just like normal class assignments. I'm missing like big tests right now. Like I believe this week not necessarily this week, but next week we're having midterms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm missing all those.
Yeah. So there's a legitimate fear that you could fail the school year because they're giving you zeros, right? I mean, not to mention if you're trying to, get into the top 10% of your class, I mean, this is kind of the age where you start caring about that stuff. The school is making it impossible for you to just, go to school and make good grades.
Yep. They're absolutely being the disruption in my daughter's education process.
Yeah.
Now through this whole story, everything that Isabelle has done has been cool, calm, collected, and respectful. She has not raised her voice. She has not been the source of disruption. She has been doing her work. The only thing that she has been doing is having her mask down. Now, granted, there have been times where she's pulled it down to her chin, but that's not where it started. Mm-hmm. I think it might have moved there for spite in principle, but that's fine with me.
She's trying to make a point. Yeah. At this point, it's becoming a matter of principle. Yeah. So you said you kept her out of class on Friday, but she went back on Monday, right?
Yeah. She went back on Monday, and I've been having her keep a journal list of everything that they're saying and doing, and that way we can keep track of it, and she can keep track of it on her handwritten notes.
I'm not sure if I have everything in here.
It's all right. So Monday rolls around, and she does it again and brings it down below her nose, and the teacher asks her to put it up. She kindly and politely refuses the request, and they call in an administrator. And
No. They didn't get to that point yet. But I was sent to the 7th grade office, and the assistant principal, she talked to me and saying like how I need to have my mask up, and I politely said, no, thank you, ma'am. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it down. And she said, okay, then you can either put your mask up and go back to class, or you're going to go to the isolation room. I said, okay, I'm not going to have my mask up. And she said, okay, then you're going to go to isolation room, but you're going to have your mask up there. And I said, no, thank you. If I go there, my mask will be down.
Yeah, so, I'm already in punishment and isolation. What more can you do to me, right?
Exactly. So
we're about to find out.
We'll see. It gets better.
Yeah, so I went to isolation, and then I was there for the entire day. I called and talked to my dad, and he told me that not to stay in that room and to go to the bench between the front office and the media center. And so I told the lady that was there, and she said, you can't do that because you won't be supervised, and I'm not allowed to be unsupervised. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, so I stayed there. And that was Monday, right? And then Tuesday, I was asked to go to the 7th grade office again because my mask was down and I was asked multiple times to put it out. So I went to the 7th grade office and I was asked to go to the isolation room, and I said, no, thank you. I will not be going to the isolation room. And then she was like, okay, well, I need you to stay here in the office if you're not going to do that. And I said, no, I'm going to go back to class. And me and the assistant principal went back and forth on that for a while about like me not having my mask up or not going back to class because of it. Yeah. And then I finally decided to be like, I just stood up and walked back to class. And then I believe.
So, and your dad had said that you agreed to put the mask up just to leave the office, right? She kept saying you can't leave the office, so you put the mask on.
Yeah.
But then you pull it down as soon as you walk out.
Yeah. So so she'd be like, oh, please put your mask up. And I'd be like, okay, I put it up. And then I stepped out of the office and I put it down as soon as I got out.
And I just want to interject. Normally, this isn't behavior that, we as parents would want to condone, right? You want your kid to be obedient. You want them to be respectful and do what the principal says. But there's a point where if what you tell your child is violated by what the principal says, you kind of want them to stand up to them, right? I mean, we're entering uncharted territory this year. We've all had to be civilly disobedient. We had to push back on these authoritarian, mindsets in order to hold on to our freedoms. And I think as a 13-year-old, this is the age where you want them to start doing that a little bit. You want them to start thinking for themselves, stepping out from the crowd and saying, I don't care what my friends or, the other kids at the school think about me. I believe in this and I will stand up for it. So any parents who are thinking, oh, she disobeyed as soon as she left the office, I kind of don't have a problem with that because you seem like a good kid, Isabelle. You don't seem like a kid who's going to disobey in other situations.
She's a good kid. She's a good kid. And I don't have words to describe how proud I am of her.
Yeah, I love that.
How she's handling this situation.
I think you almost cried once.
Aw, you're raising her right. Raising her right. So, okay, so you step out of the office and you go back to the class, right?
Yes. And then I wasn't messed with until 4th period, which is my very last class, which was math. Hold on. And then I was told by an administrator to go to the 7th grade office because sorry.
It's all right.
I'll get a little ahead. So my math teacher, she told me to put my mask up. I said, no, thank you. She said for me to go to the 7th grade office. So I said, okay. So I went there. And then the administrator or assistant principal, she asked me to put my mask up. And I said, no, thank you. And then she was like, okay, come with me to the isolation room. And I said, no, thank you. And then she said, Isabelle, you have to come to the isolation room because you can't be in your class without your mask on. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not going to be going. So I put my mask up, then walked out, put it back down, and then I went to class. And then my math teacher, she was like, Isabelle, are you done with your little mask break? And I said, no, thank you. And then she said, okay, then please go back to 7th grade office. And I said, no, I'm not going to be doing that. And then she said, okay. So I guess she emailed the assistant principal, which is Miss Wint. And then Miss Youngblood, which is the 7th grade office lady, she came down to the classroom. She told me to go with her to the isolation room. I said, no, thank you. And she said, okay. So Miss Wint later came in and she asked me to do the same thing. And I said, no, thank you. And then she moved my entire math class into the computer lab and told me to stay in that room.
This part of the story cracks me up so much because they can't walk up to you and physically move you, right? They're worried about assault and everything else. So instead they move the entire class. That's great. So you're just sitting in the classroom by yourself at that point?
Yeah. And so I had this, so she moved the class, and I asked her why she did that. And she said, you're not moving. So I moved the rest of the class. And I was like, okay. And then I asked her if I could call my dad, and then she said, in order for you to do that, you have to stay in the 7th grade office. And I said, well, thank you. I would call him and then come right back. And then she said, no, Isabelle, you can't do that. You have to either stay in there or stay in here. So she walked out, And then I told Miss Youngblood, she was in the room with me, and I told her that I'm gonna go call my dad. And then I walked out the room, and she talked on the walkie to Miss Wint saying the student is going to 7th grade office. So I went there, called my dad. I don't remember exactly what he said about it. But I then went back to class, and then she told Miss Wint on the walkie that I was going back to class, and then I just stayed there. And Miss Youngblood, she was trying to she was saying, "Oh, don't let this ruin your day. It's okay. I know you're in a tough position right now. You have to listen to your dad, and you have to listen to school and everything like that." I was like, "Yep, She was just trying to sugarcoat me and stuff like that.
Yeah. She doesn't realize you're probably enjoying this at this point a little bit.
Maybe.
So okay,
Being my child, yes.
Right.
So that's the first day where they actually dole out some punishment. Okay. She gets a referral for ISS, which is in-school suspension for one day that is supposed to take place on Wednesday.
Yes. And so what I was supposed to do was go to homeroom, which is, I believe, 30 minutes. And then I'll get all my stuff for the rest of my classes and then go to ISS. But I didn't do that. I stayed in my class. And I don't believe... Hold on, let me just double check.
It's basically we completely disregarded the ISS. When I was called to and again, every day I'm getting a phone call from the school informing me of what Isabelle is doing and what they are doing in response. Mm-hmm. And every day I do my best to control myself. And very shortly after the beginning of the conversation, when they start telling me about what punishments they're doling out, I tend to lose it. Yeah. That's something that I need to work on. But anyway, they give her ISS. She refuses to go on Wednesday. She refuses to go to the isolation room. She refuses to go to the office. She refuses to go to ISS. So at that point, they moved the class again.
No, not for the ISS thing.
That was the next day? No, that was Wednesday, because they didn't move the class Thursday or Friday. They haven't moved the class since last Wednesday.
Okay, then I guess they did.
Yeah, the Wednesday they moved the class. Mm-hmm. She followed. And excuse me,
she trailed behind the class.
Yeah, she wasn't going to stay behind this time.
So Isabelle, how long did you wait? Did you just they all left the door and then you kind of follow after them quietly, or how did that go?
Oh, no. So Miss Wint, she came to the classroom. She's like, "All right, everybody, we're all going to go to the upstairs computer lab." And she was like, and then she walked over to me. She was like, "Isabelle, I need you to stay. You can't go with them." And I said, "Okay." So everyone starts standing up, and I stand up too, and everyone starts getting in line. So I get in line as well, and we all walk out. And then we get to the computer lab, and Miss Wint, she asked me to leave the room and go to she either asked me to go to ISS or the isolation room with her. And I said, "No, thank you. I'm gonna stay with my class." And she said, "Okay." And then she moved my class back, and I wasn't messed with for the rest of the day, except I believe for that afternoon, when I was given my first referral for suspension of 4 days, out of school suspension for 4 days.
So because she, are we frozen?
I think she's frozen.
Oh no. Unless
she's staying really still.
Okay. She gets sentenced with 4 days of off-campus suspension because she refused to go to isolation or the office or ISS. And that was supposed to take effect Thursday. Thursday was supposed to be the first day of that.
Yeah.
So she comes home, she informs me of what's going on, and we discuss it. And Thursday morning,
Ow.
she jumps on the bus and goes to school. And where her, the assistant principal is waiting for her to get off of the bus.
Yeah.
And
then she pulls me into. She asked me to go to the 7th grade office with her. I said no, thank you. She said I just need to follow up with yesterday, or no, for you being here. And I said okay. So I went with her. And then I believe I was given another referral of 4 days for showing up when I was suspended.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So sorry about that. My electricity just went off around me.
Too much truth.
I know. Somebody's like outside turning it off here. Sorry about that. So continue, Isabelle. I know the story. I know you're just walking us through it. So go ahead.
So she pulled me into the 7th grade office. I was given 4 more days of suspension just for showing up when I was suspended. And I was told to go to ISS with her and wait for my dad to come pick me up. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not going to. So I went back to class, and I believe I was left alone.
For the rest of that day. But
Yeah.
they also, that day, they didn't just give her 4 days for not going to, not staying home and being, isolated at home. They gave her an additional day for insubordination. So we're at this point at 9 days suspended from school because she cannot breathe.
Wow.
Yeah,
this all started with her saying, I need to pull this down below my nose.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
And not listening to faculty or staff when they tell her that she's had enough of a break.
Yeah. And the whole consequence thing, they skipped almost half of it, because what's supposed to happen is you get 6 citations before you get a referral, and I was given a referral immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, Isabelle, are you becoming the talk of the school? Are your friends and students you go to school with saying, what the crap are you doing?
Yes. Pretty much everyone is talking about me right now. Even there's this girl, Fatima. She's in my class, and we have never spoken to each other. We might have made eye contact 1 or 2 times, but we've never spoken to each other. And I believe it was Monday that she came up to me and she was like, Isabelle, so please walk me through this. You're suspended, right? And I was like, yes. And she's like, then why are you here?
Why are you here?
And I'm like, it's a long story. It's hard to explain right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So where are we in the timeline at this point?
Going into Friday, she has 9 days of suspension. We've escalated to that point.
Okay.
So Friday rolls around. She gets on the bus and goes to school. That's where she needs to be. And they're waiting for her again at the bus, catching her before she goes in. And at this point, she refuses to go to the office. She refuses to go to isolation. She refuses to go to ISS, and she's obviously refusing to stay home. So they escalate to, not immediately, but Friday. This is what happens Friday. They put her on what is a Rule 12. To be honest with you, haven't looked at it. I don't care. But it's a kind of a probation-esque type situation. Any further incidents, insubordination, and there's potential to go before a tribunal, which
wow, that sounds
worried about either.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
So do we know what that is? What's the tribunal going to be? Who's going to be on that?
To be honest, I haven't looked into it because it's a moot point as far as I'm concerned. I really don't care what it's for. I absolutely am planning on going back and looking through the paperwork and finding out. I have read it, but it didn't stick. They also gave her that Friday because she showed up again for the second day in a row when she was supposed to be suspended. The school on school letterhead issued her a trespass warning.
Mm-hmm.
So now the school has said, the administration has said that she is no longer allowed on property. This is also the first time that I speak with the principal. So this has been going on for this long, and I have yet to speak to the principal of the school.
Yeah.
And
so walk us through why the school letterhead is important in this situation, right? You're not scared of that school letterhead so much, right?
none whatsoever. It's the difference between policy and law. I know what the law is. I know what the law states, and I know that the policy is a violation of rights. And once they inform me that they have issued a trespass, I inform them that that's fine. She's going to continue to be in class, and she's going to continue to come to school and go to class up until the point where they decide to escalate
To a criminal trespass.
well
warning.
to a threat of arrest.
Right.
Threat specifically, keywords here, because a lot of the paperwork states that that was written by the assistant principal stated that I didn't want to speak to them until she was charged and arrested. Not what I said. It's not. I don't want my daughter in bracelets. I don't want to be in bracelets. You know, that's not my goal.
You told them, call me before you're going to
Correct.
arrest her.
Correct.
Otherwise, I don't care which of your school policies she's violated.
Right.
Okay.
So I made that very, very clear that if they were going to escalate the situation and ask or demand, and the SRO, the school resource officer, was going to comply with a enforcement of policy and not law, and threaten her with arrest for being on property after being trespassed, that I would come and pick her up immediately. Mm-hmm. Never happened. I was informed by the SRO several times that they enforce law, not policy.
And the SRO is the in-school police officer. Is that what that stands for? Okay.
Correct. School resource officer.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Friday comes and goes, and because of the trespass, we have a long discussion about where this is going, and this is kind of part of the reason that I initially, lost almost all cognitive function when I got the initial phone call on the previous Thursday, because as soon as I heard that they put her in isolation, I knew exactly where this was going. I knew the steps that were going to be taken, and I knew the end result was going to end up with one or both of us being criminally trespassed from the property. So Monday rolls around, and instead of putting her on the bus after the trespass, I decided to drive her in. Now, a week and a day, including the previous Thursday, I've had a phone conversation that did not necessarily go pleasantly for them every day. And instead of sending her to school on the bus and hoping that they don't put her in bracelets, because they've obviously got something twisted in how they believe I spoke, I take her in, and we both walk into the school, sans mask, where we are immediately confronted by administration or staff, faculty. They point over here to this box of surgical masks that clearly on it is printed, not for COVID use. I failed to get a picture of those, and I can't go back at the moment to go get that picture. So, but we walk into the office, and I inform the secretary in there that I want to speak to the SRO. I'm not here to speak with any administration. I need to speak to the officer on duty. We're made to wait roughly 25, 30 minutes. And then the principal walks out, Miss Linda Boyd, Twin Rivers Middle School, Gwinnett County, Georgia. And kind of does one of these and attempts to usher us into the office, into her office to speak. And I kindly refuse and tell her that I'm not here for her. I have nothing to say to her. Our conversation is circular, and I'm not here for a circular conversation. I need to speak to the SRO. She walks back in. About 5 minutes later, the middle school SRO and the SRO from the high school, which is, I don't know, 300 yards behind the middle school on the same road, come out of the office, and we proceed to walk outside to have some semblance of privacy. They didn't want this conversation in the middle of the hallway for some reason. I was informed that he was called in just as backup for the officer for the middle school. She's pleasant. She's very small framed, and I think that the way that our conversations, not with the SRO, but between the administration and myself, the way they had gone the previous week, that they wanted some backup just in case.
She's like, this guy's angry. I want someone else here. That makes total sense. Yeah,
absolutely. I do not fault them for that at all. I understand, and if I was in their position, I would absolutely do the same thing.
Right. It's
a CYA thing. I'm the kind of person that let's use words, but it's not going to be one-sided, and it's not going to be an ultimatum. Yeah. At that point, the words are pointless, and that's when we need to move beyond words. And that's why specifically I wanted to speak to the SROs, because I had not had that with them yet. But the conversation that I wanted to have with them was to very clearly understand where I am coming from, where the school is, and where they are, as far as policy versus law. And that is and I had to explain it to them roughly 3 times before they understood the difference between a Gwinnett County public school system letterhead telling me that my daughter is trespassed, and a Gwinnett County public police or school police department law enforcement letterhead,
right?
Criminal or trespass warning.
Because they are there to enforce the law, and there is no law on the books saying you have to wear a mask in the school system. This is the school's policy, and you disagree with the policy, and you want your child to be able to go there and be able to breathe. And not to mention, there are kids with asthma, all kinds of kids who cannot wear a mask. And I don't care if Isabelle has an issue or not with wearing the mask, like an actual physical diagnosed condition. I feel like she's standing up for all those kids who are sitting there trying to catch a breath in school. They're getting headaches. They're coming home, having all of these side effects from the mask. And not to mention they've got asthma or something like that. That's also, a barrier for them. So Isabelle, good for you. You're standing up for those kids who do have issues. And even the CDC says, if you have something like asthma, you should not wear a mask. These people are exempt. I mean, even our Texas, when stupid Governor Abbott issued his mask mandate last year, that was kind of what launched me into the fight. I thought, golly, Abbott, you're a Republican, but you're acting like a Democrat, like a leftist. He even in his executive order said, if you got a physical condition that keeps you from wearing a mask, obviously you're exempt from it. That's common sense. So, yeah. Sorry to go on that tangent, but
your show. Absolutely. No, I agree. See, I was born in Maine, raised in Texas. I spent about
awesome
14 years in Abilene.
Okay.
So I grew up in AISD, Abilene Independent School District, and
that's cool.
A lot's changed since then.
Yeah. Texas is not the bastion of freedom that everyone thinks it is. You're better off going down to Florida out there where you are.
At this point. So that conversation lasts roughly an hour with the SROs, and I have to multiple times explain to them, why, words matter, definitions matter. If this winds up in court, the definition of it matters, because it can either be thrown in my face or it can be used against me or, anything of the nature. Yeah. And that conversation ends with both SROs walking into the office or walking back into the building. And I asked them, okay, so what's going to happen? Where are we? And the PC answer that I get is, we don't enforce policy, we enforce law. Mm-hmm. Apparently they've been instructed to say no more than that, because the question that I'm asked, or that I ask them, is if the school wants her removed, are you going to move to arrest her?
Right.
We don't enforce policy, we enforce law. All right, Isabelle, come here, give me loves.
Yeah.
Love you, darling.
You're free to go.
Go have a good day at school. Took up her entire first period. Missed a quiz. Counted absent because we're dealing with this.
Yeah.
I believe also that day I had PE and I wasn't wearing my mask in PE because it's PE. And I had to sit out because I wasn't wearing my mask. And I got a 0.
Yeah.
In PE.
Yeah, they're having these kids doing strenuous exercise, getting sweaty, getting their respiratory rate up, their heart rate up, and being forced to wear masks.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that last year the CDC said something about that too. Like you should not be exercising with a mask on. This school's policy is so backwards, and so there's such a lack of science in their decision making here. It's crazy.
And that activity that we were doing, that my class was doing, was we were going into like the exercising room with like treadmills, like lifting weights and stuff like that. And absolutely everyone in that room was not wearing a mask, even the teacher.
Oh,
and
really?
I still had to sit out.
Oh my gosh.
Being punished.
Yeah. Yeah, they're out to get you now. You're the enemy of the school.
Yep.
Wow. So other people can break the rules and they just look the other way, but not when Isabelle does it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The funny thing that I noticed was both SROs were wearing their masks outside while we were having this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, on Tuesday, 2 days ago, we'll get to that.
So continue on.
She goes to class. I go home. I'm waiting for the phone call. It was a very anxious day for me until she came home. And then we decided that night that because of the escalation and the continued harassment and the continued disruption of her education, as well as the disruption of whatever class it is that she's in, because they're moving the entire class to another room and back.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to school on Tuesday. She takes the bus. Only I tell her this: instead of going to class, you go to the office and you go to them and you tell them this. And this is pretty much the only thing that I have instructed her almost verbatim to say. Everything else I've been guiding and supporting. Don't be disrespectful. Don't be the distraction. Don't be the disruption. Mm-hmm. Don't give them what they are wanting you to be and what they are saying you are. Don't be that.
Yeah.
So I tell her to go to them and tell her that, let's go ahead and get this circular conversation out of the way so I can get to class and not be interrupted. So go ahead and do whatever it is that you're going to do. I'm out. And she took away the only power that they had at that point, because everything else that they'd done, we'd been ignoring with impunity. And they didn't know how to respond to that other than moving forward with the criminal trespass warning. And about 10:30 in the morning, I get a phone call from the sergeant of the cluster SRO. He actually is the one that is usually at the elementary school that my other two go to. And the irony, car rider line, teachers lined up with masks on their face. And this sergeant standing over here at the end, sans mask.
No mask.
No mask at the car rider line drop off.
Yeah.
Every day. He's not wearing a mask outside with them on school property where he's supposed to be wearing a mask.
Right.
So I get a call.
Do you think he's sort of on your side with this? Like, he doesn't like the mask mandate either, and that's why he's trying to get around it himself?
I believe after the conversation that we had and with over the trespass, it was the conversation. It was the SRO from the high school and the SRO sergeant from the elementary school. The Officer Presley is her name. For the middle school was not present for the passing off of the trespass warning. I don't know if conflict of interest, what if she wasn't there, if they just wanted the two gentlemen there who were, I'm a little dude, I'm 5'10", you know, both of them were taller than me. I think they may have just wanted both of them there in case I got ornery. But again, you know, I explained to them the previous day, if we get to this, okay, hand it to me, we'll leave, you know, no question. Well, no problems. I'm not going to give you problems.
Yeah. You're clearly not aggressive in any way except verbal. You know, you're just a parent who's upset.
Right. And I don't even get that way until you start telling me how you're going to punish my child for not being able to breathe. I answered every single phone call from the assistant principal pleasantly. Morning, Mr. Muth. How you doing today? I am well. How are you? I'm having a great day. How can I mess yours up?
Let's try to keep it that way.
Right. So
they call you and say, we're about to issue this criminal trespass warning, not a citation, just a warning. Correct.
We don't have a criminal trespass. We have a trespass warning. And here's the kicker. Here's the difference between the Gwinnett County Public School System letterhead and the Gwinnett County School Police letterhead. The trespass warning, both of them, because I got one as well, are on their letterhead, law enforcement letterhead. And that's what I needed to abide by a trespass.
So wait a minute. You got one too. Explain that.
Encouragement and support. The administration, faculty, and staff are under the impression that I've got a microphone in my hand and a little receiver here in the back of her head, and she is just regurgitating what I'm telling her. And
that's crazy.
I mean, now, granted, we talk about this. That doesn't seem
lawful that you, as the parent, are. Of course, you're responsible for your kid, but if your kid commits a crime, you don't go to jail for it. Right. So that seems ridiculous.
Yeah. So but
so I get put out of class, and and I go to speak to the SRO. Then he calls my dad, and we get my stuff from my classroom. And then the SRO's office is in the front office. They have like this secret passageway behind the office, and so we go into the office, and it's time to switch classes, and everyone in the 7th grade is in connections, and they're all going from connections to second period. And that's when we step out of the hallway, and every single kid sees me being between the two officers, being escorted out of the school by officers.
Wow.
And everyone's looking at me, and all my friends are like, Isabelle, what'd you do? And
it took 2 officers to get you out of there.
Yeah. Everyone saw me.
Where was your chin?
Like I wasn't down or anything, like disappointed in myself or anything like that.
You're holding
their head high.
Good.
She had nothing to be ashamed of.
Good. So, at this point, what day is this? Did this happen earlier this week? Okay,
Tuesday this week.
Okay. Yes. So how did Wednesday go?
Wednesday was fine. I mean, like I said, I get a call about 10:30 in the morning from the SRO sergeant, and informing me that she's being issued a criminal trespass warning.
Wait, that was all?
No, that was Tuesday. On the SROs are issuing you a lawful trespass warning. Okay. So I show up, and we go through that process. They get my information. This is one of the biggest things that I'm proud of her for. She refused to sign all referrals. She refused to sign the Rule 12. She refused to sign the trespass that the school gave her. She refused to sign no, there were no citations. They went straight to referrals, but she refused to sign everything. Mm-hmm. And I obviously, she also refused to sign the trespass warning. And right there on the front, I'm looking at him, and he's showing them to me, and it says refuse to sign. And I just get this little grin and this spark of pride. And I go ahead and tell him, I'm like, look, you can go ahead and put refuse to sign on mine as well. Yeah. I hand him my ID. Just, I'm not going to go that route. Normally what law have I violated? Yeah. I don't go that route. I told them I wasn't going to give them any trouble if we got here, and I was going to keep my word on that.
Mhm.
Now we go over the details of it, and
So this is still Tuesday, right?
Yes, this is still
Tuesday.
Yeah, this is Tuesday. This is Tuesday morning, 10:45 or so. Once we're getting into it, her trespass is valid only until the end of her suspension, which is up October 7th.
Okay.
Which is the beginning of fall break.
So she's out for the week preceding and then fall break. So she's not going to be able to actually go back to class until after fall break.
Wow.
And it is only specifically listed for Twin Rivers Middle School.
Oh, really?
Not for any other Gwinnett County Public School System property. That is the only property that she is trespassed from.
Okay. So you could technically go register her at a different middle school.
Right.
Yeah.
Technically.
Okay.
Mine has no expiration date.
Wow.
I am trespassed from Twin River, but it does specifically say just Twin Rivers Middle School, because I asked them, I go to school board meetings. I'm on the school council, which is kind of like PTA, but it's not PTA. It's a group of parents getting together to discuss policies and, the goings on and try to give the parent point of view to the administration, but it's not PTA.
Yeah. So you're a very active, involved parent who just happens to have a disagreement with the school on masks, and they're banning you from the school.
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Wow. Indefinitely.
Wow.
And
the school that your tax dollars pay for, by the way. They're supposed to be public servants who teach your kids, and they're being paid by you to do that, and they kick you out and kick your daughter out. So, okay. So she's suspended basically until October 7th.
Yep.
And the criminal trespass just basically means you can't go on the school until then. So how did they work around the idea that, okay, it's a school policy that you have to wear a mask, but it's not a law? Did the school say, well, we just don't want her on the property, therefore we want you to issue a criminal trespass warning?
I believe it's because the school itself issued me a trespass warning, and I wasn't following the trespass warning, so they gave me the criminal trespass.
Insubordination. It again, none of this has anything to do with the mask. It's because they've never been told no before, and they don't know how to react when they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like a wounded, cornered dog. They're just lashing out and biting at everything they can.
Yeah. They've got a bone to pick with you, and they're going to see it through. Do you have any other parents who are on your side with this issue, that they would also take a stand like this?
Absolutely. I've actually found a group. There was a suit that went before Gwinnett County courts on Tuesday that was supposed to be an injunction on the mask mandate until the issue can be tried.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that was basically the judge stalling for as long as they can, and coming up with a written BS decision that he gave to each side. Is giving each side 10 days to reply. Then she will take 10 days to go over it, and then potentially maybe decide on the 25th of this month if anything is going to happen with the emergency injunction.
Yeah, because the purpose of the injunction is to just get some relief for these kids who can't wear the mask until we can legally figure this out. We want an injunction on this mask order, and so the judge is stretching it as far as she possibly can. You said it's a woman. It's as far as she's just pushing it out. Yeah.
Faulkner, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Is her name.
Yeah. So you got a bad judge. I wonder if that parent group is going to appeal in a different court. I don't know how that would work.
I'm not sure. I'm in touch with a couple of the defendants, which are members of what is the name of that group? It is, give me just 1 second, ma'am, and I will have it. It is called Gwinnett County Parents for Quality Education.
Okay.
A couple of the defendants are actually moderators on that group, and I'm still 10 days into a 30-day sentence on FedBook, and so I'm unable to post,
FedBook,
comment,
Fakebook.
Yeah.
There's so many wonderful names for Facebook. Yeah, I've been kicked off a few times as well. That's how you know you're spreading truth, right? If you've been censored.
Right. If you're not on a government watch list by now, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Good point. Good point. We all need to look over our shoulders. Okay, so if anyone is still on Facebook and able to, be active on there, what's the name of the group again?
It is
Gwinnett County.
Gwinnett County Parents for Quality Education.
Okay.
And let me get to, I don't know if you can, no, that's not.
You know what? I'll type it on screen here. Gwinnett County Parents for Quality.
There we go.
Education.
I don't know if that's backwards or not, but there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
We got a double dose there.
That's what the picture looks like, and that's okay. where I am. And we've got this thing going out live on. It was posted there as well. So
okay. Yeah. So anyone who's interested, join up with them. Now, let me ask you, what's the plan, Isabelle, when you go back on October? Well, after the break, so that might be like the 14th or something like that. Is this going to continue?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to school, not wear a mask, and see where it takes us.
There's safety in numbers. If you could get some other students whose parents are okay with them taking a stand, you could rock this school,
Yeah. And so right now I am the talk of, I think, of the 8th grade, because Tuesday while we were outside talking to the police and everything, an 8th grade class came out because they were doing like an experiment or something, and they saw me like with the police officers and everything, and I believe 2 of them were on my bus and like they know me. So I'm definitely going to get a lot of questions when I go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go ahead.
I was going to, you asked if I believed if the SROs were on board, and long-winded, ADD, it's bad. And I bounce a lot. I apologize.
No problem.
The end of the conversation. And again, I record everything. I record my phone conversations automatically. I made sure to video and audio record the initial conversation with the SROs, as well as this one. CYA. I learned that the hard way, and so I do it everywhere. Both of them encouraged us to continue fighting. Specifically, keep doing what we're doing.
Really.
And the sergeant specifically mentioned the Constitution, and that he believes that this one here is going to be a very big proponent for it.
Yeah.
And to keep up the good work.
I love that so much.
I believe they know, and they know, and they know that we know they know, but they're stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they know that if they did what they needed to do, which was uphold the law and not the policy, that they would automatically have all of our support, and they wouldn't have to worry about fallout from us.
I agree.
Because we defend them just like I'm defending her.
Yeah. There's going to come a point where the good ones in law enforcement are going to have to take a stand. And honestly, I don't know how many of those we have. It's, they're a part of a system where your superior says, do this, you say, yes, sir, and you do it. And they're so trained in that mindset, even if they have a constitutional perspective on these things, making that step, I think, is going to be difficult. So I'm really glad to hear that the 2 SROs did say that to you, though. So they're in the system, and they feel like they can't speak out or take a stand, but they're happy that at least the 13-year-old is.
Right. They were very surprised that they're getting this kind of, that the school is getting the kind of pushback and response and respectful response from her. And that's been a big thing every day. I tell her I love her. I tell her I'm proud of her. I tell her to keep her head up, be respectful, but don't take any shit.
Well, yeah, and Isabelle, I applaud you because, like I said, 13 is when you start caring about grades. You're thinking about colleges. You know, these things that have happened to you, the being in isolation, the trespassing warning, all of that is going in a book. It's going on your record, and colleges are going to see that. However, speaking from the other side of it, I run my own business now, and I don't even need that degree. You know, you can be successful in this world without continuing on in this flawed academic system because, hey, your middle school's bad. Just wait till you get to college. You're going to be surrounded by leftists, you know, leftist Nazis. I'm sorry to say, they believe in communism and they want to try to make you think that way as well. So I say skip it. Start your own business when you're 16, you know?
Trade school. Learn how to do something with your hands.
Yeah, we got people checking out left and right. We've got parents pulling their kids out of school, you know, homeschooling, free range parenting is a big thing right now. Like, I'm going to teach my kid, I'm going to train my kid up in what they're interested in and make them experts in that so that they can go out into the world and do that thing and do it really well. So I just encourage you, don't let people scare you. Don't let them tell you, oh, you're ruining your life, you're ruining your future. I think you got a great future in politics or whatever you choose to go into. And we need people like you fighting for us. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm proud of her. I absolutely am. And I don't have words to describe it.
Yeah. You're doing a great job, Josh.
I'm trying.
You're doing it.
I haven't been the best. I've failed at a lot of things in my life.
Yeah, we all have
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to do what I can.
Being a parent's the most important thing, and that's, if you're doing that well, I say that's great.
Well, and that's pretty much where we're at now. What I would like to portray to any parents that are thinking about pulling their kids from school, going homeschooling, private, getting them out of the system. Don't do it voluntarily.
Yeah.
If we run, they win. Right. If we don't stand and fight, and I don't mean, physically or violently.
Yeah.
But if we don't stand for ourselves and for our homes and for our children, nobody else is going to. And
exactly.
If we change school systems, if we change schools, if we pull them out, we're not helping anything.
Right.
We've all got to stand up, and we've got to stand shoulder to shoulder, and we've got to tell them no more.
Yeah, because that's the knee-jerk reaction, right? Well, I'll just pull my kid out of school and homeschool them. But then you're a bright, spot that was in that school that has now left, and there's no one there holding them accountable. So yeah, good job. I'm glad you're keeping her in there. I'm glad you're continuing to fight. I want to hear the rest of the story too. So stay in touch.
I've got one short, small little addition. Like I said,
Sure.
I'm on the school council, and yesterday we had a school council meeting. Mm-hmm. It was a cluster meeting for all of the schools that have councils in our little cluster, not the district, but the cluster. And the only reason that I was able to make it was because it was at the high school and not the middle school. And I'm not trespassed from the high school.
Got lucky on the location.
I was there, and as was Miss Linda Boyd, the principal for Twin Rivers Middle School. And after I behaved myself, I sat quietly, and there were probably 40-ish parents there, and administration, faculty, and staff represented from everyone in our cluster, and I was the only one not wearing a mask.
Wow.
I noticed right off the rip when I walked into the building that not one person, and that's the thing that messes with me the most, I think, is that from the time that I walked into the building until the time that I walked out of that building, not one person mentioned a mask to me. Not once. Yeah. Now I did, after the meeting, I asked Miss Boyd, because I was curious, since I am on the student council and, here we are, what's going to happen with my CT, my criminal trespass, as far as the student council meetings go for Twin Rivers, which the next one is not until November. And her reply to me was, if I'm able to have a civil discussion with her, sit down and speak civilly and not get animated, I believe was the term that she used. And then she stopped, and because I'm let's have some words. Let's use our words.
Yeah, a conversation that's not a monologue, right?
Exactly. Because it's not a discussion that she wants. It's an ultimatum that I will obey, and that's the discussion that she wants to have.
Right.
Now, she asked me. She said that it also depends on what our plans are moving forward with Isabelle, as far as once her suspension is up and once her CT is expired and she's allowed to come back on campus. And my answer to her was, Isabelle's in control of her own mask. She's the one that's breathing. And she told me then, no, I will not be allowed back on school campus.
Oh, wow. So they're basically saying until your daughter complies, you're not allowed back.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And it's all right. I'm not worried about it. So basically, in order
it seems like there has to be an end to these, though. They can't just indefinitely ban you. I wouldn't think.
There are avenues I can go through the system to have it quashed and removed, because it's a violation of my rights. It's a violation of her rights. It's an unlawful trespass warning because I've violated no law. And I technically was not on property when whatever was going on.
Right.
They issued me a CT because I'm supporting and encouraging my daughter in standing up for herself.
You know what? By these standards, they could just issue a criminal trespass to any parent who they disagree with.
Yeah.
Any parent who's giving them a problem, saying, I don't like the way this teacher is treating my child. I don't like this CRT stuff that you're teaching in class. That's a slippery slope when you start banning parents from their kids' school.
Yeah. And through this whole process, I don't know how many attorneys I've actually called and spoken to, constitutional attorneys, civil rights attorneys. It's at least 5 that I can remember. I've spoken to the school system attorney. His name is George Gomez. I've spoken to a lieutenant in the criminal investigations department for the sheriffs. I've spoken to the District 2 school board member, Stephen Knudsen. Knudsen. The K is not silent. I told him I was going to remember that one. He seems to be on board. I've heard from people who have been dealing with this and have been dealing with him in the past that there may potentially be a lot of hot air coming out of him, that he will support you in word but not in action. I have yet to see either, so I can't say, but I would hope that he would be a man that would back up his mouth with actions.
Yeah.
And but I've spoken to a lot of people, and specifically the attorneys that I was getting advice from. $25,000 for a retainer is roughly the minimum that I'm looking at to take this to court. And
so it's almost like the school is daring you to go into debt just to fight them.
Right. And none of them saw any litigation less than 3 years. So
wow.
$25K is just the drop in the bucket at the beginning.
Right.
So,
right.
And that kind of gets us to, if we can't use the system to fix the system,
right.
What else are we left with?
What do you do? What do
we do?
Yeah. You may have to ride this thing out. I mean, you may have to wait until a bunch of other parents get as angry as you do, and they're all willing to pitch in $5,000 for a lawsuit, and then you go after that school.
Right.
Right. I say maybe spend a couple of years building up a support system.
Right.
So have some rallies out in front of the school, maybe.
I believe I'm going to be going and getting some poster board and planting myself on the public easement in front of the school with a list of what they have done, what they have threatened, and what's happening.
Right. Right. Call some attention to it for
Yep,
sure.
absolutely. Specifically during drop off and pickup times when all the parents are just sitting there waiting to turn in.
Yeah. You know what? You're bound to have some parents who are angry that their kid is sitting there in a mask all day. You're going to get some support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious where the parents are that were in the parents of the students who were in the classes that were moved. Because if my daughter came home to me and told me that they had to move class because another student was unable to breathe and it was simply, below their nose,
right, I
would be livid for them.
Yeah. Yeah. You would want to call that parent up and defend them to the school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know there's others out there. I know I'm not alone. Y'all are not alone. None of us are alone in this. We're all in this together. And we're the majority. We can't run. Yeah. We've got to stop running. We've got to stop complying. And we've got to stop standing up and refusing to stand down.
Yeah, I agree. This is about more than just, this will all blow over and it'll be okay. It's not. It's going to continue. And we have to fight it. And, the longer we wait to fight these things, the worse it's going to get. They're never going to stop pushing. They're always going to be trying. That's what government does, right? You give it a little bit of power and it continues to say, well, that's not quite enough. We need this now. They encroach slowly over time until before you know it, you're a frog sitting in boiling water and they've taken over your life. So this is the stand we take.
Yeah. And this, I'm standing at masks because vaccines are coming.
Oh yeah. They are. And they're going to add it to the childhood vaccine schedule and say your daughter's required to get it.
Right. And without crossing that line, let's just say I hope that they don't have a vaccination day and manage to actually vaccinate any of my children.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't actually want to vocalize what will happen.
Then we'd have a fight on our hands, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I know. That's a scary thought for a lot of people. You know what to do. In my mind, I would go to the school nurse and say, you better not.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been having this conversation and that, the trajectory, where have we been to accurately predict where we are going?
Yeah.
And where we are going is
follow it out.
Mandatory vaccines. And they don't want to hear that because we're not there yet. Right. 15 days to lower the curve. And now we're almost 2 years into it. And
yeah,
it's just getting worse. And
the simple times of 15 days to flatten the curve.
Right.
If we could just go back to that point.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I have so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And I do want to stay in touch, follow up with you. Maybe at the end of the semester, we find out how it went when you went back, or just as things start to heat up. You guys just let me know.
Will do. Absolutely. We'll any new things happen, and we'll absolutely keep you apprised. I know that there's a lot of people paying attention to this, and there's a lot of people watching. And we've got to stop standing by.
Right.
There's 4 boxes that we've got: the soap box, the jury box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. 3 of those have failed. And I know a lot of people who have emptied their cartridge boxes and loaded their magazines. And I don't want it to get to that point.
Right.
But if we don't stand up now before that point is reached, that is the point of no return.
Yeah, no one's advocating violence here, right? But if we look back at the founding fathers, that's exactly what they had to do. They had to take up arms against, England, who was suppressing them and was not going to let up. Let's hope we don't get to that point, but every American should have a plan on how they're going to defend themselves. If the government ever comes and kicks in your door, you need to have some guns and some bullets. That's what they're there. That's what the Second Amendment is there for, right?
Right there.
There you go. I can see a little bit of it there. Well, Josh and Isabelle, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. We've been talking for a while here. This is a long show, but
I
it was worth
appreciate it. I'm sorry I ramble. I tend to do that. Like I
Hey.
said, ooh, piece of candy. So,
It was great. We had a lot to talk about and unpack. So, yep, we'll be in touch, and you guys just enjoy your days off, Isabelle. You deserve it. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
yeah, bye.
Bye.